guys. So let's see, Maddie, what'd you do?
I went to the summit and stuff, and Keaton was called horse again. And Keaton was being a butt, and then he kept saying that he could get his horse in the trailer first. And I said, no, he can't. And he can't get the horse in the trailer because he keeps freaking out, and he has to like ground pen him and stuff, and like work with him. And I am trying to get my pony in the trailer, right? And then he goes in perfectly fine. And then he's over here like, you're cheated and stuff.
Okay, so it was a horse story, but if I hung out with horses, I would tell horse stories a lot too. Horses are mythical beings. Miss Dugan, and then we can probably start. Yeah, what? I missed the first part of it. Storyboard. I don't know what that means. Floorboards? Snowboards. Oh, okay. I'm deaf, guys. And last but not least, what did you do?
So I had a horse, but I was doing it from my horse's one, and he stuck in my foot and rolled, and then he stepped on the side of my knee. And then I got back up, and then I started running with him again, but then I had this huge bruise, and it's still messed up now.
And this was like a full horse?
It's a full horse.
I'm surprised you didn't like break your foot or something. Like you didn't.
I know, right?
Wow. Okay. Yeah, horses can be dangerous.
Oh,
Wait. So who is absent? So Natalie is absent. Huh?
I'm absent.
No. Natalie's absent. All right, guys. We better get started. Macy, and Natalie. And who sometimes sits between Richard and Allure? No one. Okay. Yeah. Usually. Okay. And so it's two people. I gotta add. All right, guys, let's look at this one real quick. I'm gonna talk about costume a lot, so I'm not gonna dwell on it here. But hopefully, people could tell that it was imperfect. Most people seem to do okay with that. I gave you guys a lot of resources. I gave you like hints at the bottom and everything. Now, one thing that I wanted to point out was that I asked for the case of patria. So patras was second singular, imperfect tense. Please don't write one or two for when I ask for number. Write singular or plural. Don't write one or two. I know people mean singular or plural when they write one or two, but write SG or PL. I guess S or P is okay. I asked for the case of patria, but like in the part where I asked for the case, I left off the macron. So I accepted nominative or ablative. It's technically in this sentence is ablative, but because I kind of like typoed and left off the macron, I accepted nominative because the way I typed it, it looked nominative. Like almost everyone said nominative, but in a way you're not really wrong. But in the sentence, it's ablative. Right? The sentence does not have a nominative because the verb is second person, so the subject is you. So we don't need a nominative subject in this sentence. Oh yeah, that's what it says down here at the bottom. The second one, it's the same verb. Basically, it's just plural now, and it doesn't have the nay at the end of it because this isn't a question. You all could or you all were able. Either way is fine. See, the dangers of war. Curriculum is one of these horrible neuter nouns that by now we need to be pretty comfortable with. So having an A here means it can be a plural nominative or accusative, a plural subject or a direct object. We don't need a nominative. Our subject is already you because the verb is second person. So it's a direct object here. It's what you are going to verb. You verb the dangers, right? It's a direct object, comes after the verb. Of war, belly was genitive. This reminds me a lot of the first translation quiz where it was like the foolish man praises the somethings of war. So this is like the second time we had a second translation where belly was like possessive of the noun in front of it. So y'all should have been kind of used to that. And then, oh yeah, a lot of people thought belly was nominative plural. So it has a long I. So outside of the sentence, it could be nominative plural, but in this sentence, it's genitive singular. So just so it's clear, when I'm asking about like the individual words, I'm asking about what they are in the sentence, not like what they could be elsewhere. Again, it can't be nominative in this sentence when the verb is second person. Any thoughts, comments, concerns? The blank after that was complementary infinitive, right? Possum always takes a complementary infinitive. Words like wideri or maneri. Thoughts, comments? Oh, hello, Macy. We just checked the quiz, but I left them at home, so I will return them to you guys tomorrow morning when the second quarter begins. Thank you. This is for older kids. All right, let's look at this, guys, real quick. I like this thing I'm doing. Well, I don't know if I like it, but it's what I'm doing where I'm just like on Mondays or the first day of the week, that's Tuesday, I'm always trying to like reteach something I already taught. So I'm like, well, I taught it that way. Maybe y'all should teach it this way. Maybe this will work a little better. If you are struggling with Suman Possum, you should take notes. But if you're doing okay with Suman Possum, I guess you don't need to. You guys are at the age where it's like kind of hard for me to force you to take notes, but that'll probably happen in the spring a little bit, where we're just like taking notes more, and I'm like printing out less stuff for you guys, and y'all are using the textbook more. But okay, Sum. It comes from Sum essay, right? This verb to be. We've talked about it a lot, okay? But I want to feel really good about the weird verb stuff going on so far before we move into chapter 7, which we'll do in like 15 minutes. So why is it weird? Well, for one thing, the first person singular ends in M instead of O. That's kind of weird. But hopefully by now you know that Sum means I am, right? And then it switches to starting with E for the second and third person singular. It goes back to S for first person plural, Alora, back to E again, then back to S. So half of them start with E, half of them start with S. That's really weird and different than any of our verbs, but after the first person singular, we still have the ST, must, tis, int. So we should still be able to figure out the pronoun that goes with all of them, whether it's I, you, it, we, y'all, or they. And then from there, we can figure out what the verb actually is. Because we know we don't say I be, we know we don't say you be. Like we can usually just kind of think of what the verb would actually sound like in English, or like be in English rather. I am, you are, it is, right? That's English's fault that be turns into these three very different looking verbs. It's weird, right? Now, in chapter 6, we learned how to make Sum essay imperfect and future tense. And it achieves these tenses in a different way than our normal verbs. In chapter 5, we learned how like normal verbs have imperfect and future endings, like bomb, boss, spot, go, bis, fit, stuff like that. Fortunately, Sum and Possum don't get those B endings, bomb, boss, spot, go, bis, fit, those kind of things. And for one thing, the like stem, the part of the verb that doesn't change for future and imperfect, it's just like ER for some reason. Where does the R come from? I don't know. But if anything, it's actually more consistent because all 6 of the forms for future and imperfect all start with ER. It's like less weird than the present, which is weird. That's like a paradox because they all start with ER. It's not like, well, this one starts with S and this one starts with E. It's just they're all ER. And so future is the first person singular. Future version of Sum is just arrow. So it ends with O. And since future like hogs the O ending that first person singular usually likes, imperfect gets stuck with the weird M ending. And the A shows up. Because that's kind of announcing like, hey, A is going to be the vowel that means I'm imperfect. And so arrow would be I will be instead of I am. And aram is going to be I was being. Sometimes it's being, sometimes it's just like I was. And then from there we get all the tenses for future, which mostly, what vowel does future tense really like? Anyone out loud? You shows up, but yeah, I mostly, right? First person singular, it's just O, like you just cut straight to the O, but then it's like I, and you're looking at like the letter after the R. That's what's important there. And then yeah, we get the UNT, which reminds us of the BUNT, bunt cake ending that normal verbs get when they're future third person plural, like this. So yeah, they're like more consistent than Sum essay in the present. I kind of like Sum essay in the future better. And I like Sum essay in the imperfect a lot because it's really consistent. The only weird thing about Sum essay in the imperfect is that the first person singular ends in M. But we're kind of getting used to that. We now have like a few different verbs that end in M in the first singular instead of O. Most of them still end in O, some in M. Yes? Yeah, you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to pass out a stapler. Because, guys, I forgot to click the little button that says double-sided. And so I wasted a lot of paper. So, Antonio, go ahead and pass that behind you. And let's let it snake around the classroom and just staple the 2 pages together. But, yeah, this what that is has nothing to do with this, so ignore that for a second. And just chill out and look up here. And we'll get to that in a little bit. Any questions about any of this so far? Okay, I have a lot of people, Jake, who say that they're like a little confused and stuff. But if that's true, I need you to like ask questions or come to tutoring or something so that I can like help you more, right? If you're like sitting there and you're like, I don't know what he's talking about at all, and I want to be back home because I had a 3-day weekend and now like I'm like even more like not wanting to be at school or something, just ignore that part of your instinct and just like actually try to like like tune into what I'm talking about, as alien and potentially boring as it might sound. But no questions on this so far? Okay. So let's compare these future and imperfect forms of assumed essay to like normal verb endings for future and imperfect on the left here, right? So don't forget about bogus, fit, bimus, bitch, and font, and bomb, bob, spot, bomb, spots, and bombs. Those are still the endings that like normal verbs get when they are future and or imperfect tense. So yeah, it's just sum and possum that have weirdo versions of imperfect and future. All the other verbs we have are gonna have these endings to be future, right? When it's future, we just use will plus the verb I will verb instead of I verb, right? We all understand the difference between present and future tense. And then imperfect, we use was or were verbing to translate the imperfect tense. Any questions on that? So that's chapter 5 and 6. And then the rest of chapter 6 is, I think, oh, here, I'm talking about more. So here are the vowels, right? O-I-U, O-I-U. So if you see O-I-U after a B or after an R, that probably means it's future tense. Or if you see an A after a B or an R, that means imperfect. Why did I write future? Let's fix it real quick. Imperfect. Okay. And then the rest of chapter 6 is possum. So possum just piggybacks off forms of assumed essay, right? We're always adding like POS or POT depending on if it's one that starts with S or E to the front of assumed essay. And instead of meaning I am or you are or whatever, it means I am able or you are able, aka can. Is the better way to do that. So if you know the forms of assumed essay, then you also will know the forms of possum posse, right? And just like in the imperfect and future, how assumed essay gets more consistent, possum does the same thing because it's always starting with POT in the future and imperfect. If you look at the present, it's like possum, potest with a T, potest with a T, possumus with 2 S's, potestus with a T, etc. Whereas future and imperfect, it just locks into just being POT plus what would normally just be the form of assumed essay. All right. Any questions about that? And so I will be able to is the only way to translate future. That's why I'm saying that here, because it's just so much to type. Be able to. That's the only way to translate future possum. There's no like better future tense version of can in English, unfortunately. But there is a good past tense version of can in English, and this was a bonus question. It's could, right? Okay. And there's Posse the possum. And then also like the last thing for possum, and then like we're done reviewing chapter 5 or 6, is that possum always takes a complementary infinitive. That was like the last question on the quiz. An infinitive, technically a complementary infinitive. It's like a grammatical term. It's not a compliment like someone says like your shirt looks nice or whatever. It's a grammatical term. But it's kind of similar in that it's like they go together. It's like they complement one another, if that makes sense. So whenever you see possum, look for these infinitives. Usually using a spot because almost all of them start with end with ARE or long ERE. And then we have one really weird one, which is just essay. It looks different, but it means to be. So possum ladare would be like I can praise. Possum monere would be I can warn. Possum essay would be I can be. And then you would translate the rest of the sentence. Any questions, guys? You know, they're so quiet. No questions. Weird infinitive there. Okay. And then that's the chart version of all this information. All right, so we've had first and second declension. I'm hoping and kind of thinking that most of us are doing pretty good with first declension. Y'all have 2 weeks, maybe more, because let's see, it's a 4-day week. No, yeah, y'all take a translation quiz at the end of next week, and then things will get weird because y'all have like a 3-day week and a 4-day week back to back. October is really weird. November, once we get back to November, we'll have full weeks until Thanksgiving. But first and second, I think y'all are doing pretty good with first, and like some of y'all are doing okay with second. Some of y'all refuse to feel as though you know any of second, but I urge that you do know more of second than some of you claim. So we're still needing to know these. The reason I was talking about the translation quiz is because like we're not going to use a noun chart on quizzes anymore that have the first and second. We're going to make a new noun and verb chart probably tomorrow. So anyway, well, we're adding today.
Excuse me?
Yes?
Can I have Samantha Hudson to the office, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
So what we're adding today is the third declension. So these orange endings you see up here, and they correspond to the orange endings on the chart in front of the classroom. That is the third declension. This might seem kind of like overwhelming or intimidating to you guys because you're like, I barely know the first and second. That's okay. If anything, I think there's something weird that happens when you start adding declensions. It usually makes you feel more confident about the older declensions. You start to kind of think like, oh, like, you know, it's not as bad as I thought it was. Now you're feeling like the third declension is bad, but the first and second look very familiar to you. Hopefully, that's kind of what will happen. Did everybody get the stapler? I feel like it. Like, why did Alora bring it back to that corner?
I don't know.
Who has it now? Yeah,
John,
keep it moving. Why is it back there still?
because I don't know.
Keep it moving fast. Okay,
It
Caitlin.
went over there, then it came back here. So
Weird. Caitlin, did you use it? Devin?
Yeah.
Who hasn't used it?
I didn't use it.
You need it to. It needs to go up here. So
Kayla, bring it.
Caitlin to Devin, Devin to Macy, Macy to Nelius, and then it needs to go across. I guess I didn't specify that. Okay, so this is the third declension. So now we can start looking at the thing I just passed out. Third declension nouns are great. I like a lot of them. Some of the best words in Latin are third declension. So it's actually the best declension. We're going to go through it one at a time here. So I'm going to do this. Internet kids, you're not going to be able to see what I'm writing for a second, but then when I flip the slide, you can hear me. And you can follow along. This is in the Microsoft Teams notebook page for the week. Is it like week 10, week 9? I think it's week 10 if you include the first 3-day week, which is crazy. No, I think it's week 9. But anyway, and then I'll flip the slide and all of them will show up in a second. All right, so third declension nouns. I'm just going to kind of read this off a little bit. This chapter is all about the third declension. The big thing about these nouns is that the nominative will always end differently. That is like very weird, right? With first and second declension, we always knew how the nominative were going to end. We knew how all the cases were going to end. With third declension, it's a question mark, it's like a variable. Like in math, like X. It's basically, it's like we don't know. And a lot of them actually do end with X. So a lot of them end similarly, but it's like 12 potential different endings. So we just don't count it as a set ending. It's really just kind of like a question mark. Yeah, Jake? Yeah. And like wash your hand off. Okay. The stem of the noun also, this is kind of weird. And you guys, I've heard you might be like, what does that even mean? Will not always be found in the nominative. You need to look at the genitive or anything other than the nominative, basically. So what does that mean? Well, if we look at a good old first declension word, like Bama, the stem is everything leading up to the A. It's first declension, so the ending of the nominative is just like A, right? So the stem is just like F-A-N, right? It's just there in the nominative. You just drop off that A and then bam, you got a nominative. So that's like what most first and second declension nouns are like. Whereas in the third, we have words like tempus, temporis is one of our new words that means time. And if you look at it, like the nominative looks pretty different than the genitive. We kind of ignore the nominative in terms of like looking for the part that's going to stay the same. And then instead we look at the genitive, and everything up to the IS is going to be the stem of the noun. Because IS is the genitive singular ending for tempus, temporis. So yeah, don't be fooled. Tempus looks like it's going to be second declension, right? It's like a good old second declension noun, right? Second declension nouns in the U.S. A lot of you guys like to pretend that you don't know that, but that's what they're like. And then all of a sudden it's like, where does this OR come from, right? The OR, that tempor part of the word, that's going to be in all the other case forms. It's just not in the nominative for whatever reason. So third declension, everything about their nominatives is weird, basically. So let's go to this word amoris, which is the noun version of the very first verb we ever got. The ending for the nominative, let's fill it out, is a question mark. What's the ending of the nominative plural, John? John, do you have this?
No,
Why? Is that my fault or is it your fault? Okay. Caitlin, what's the ending of the nominative plural? Can you tell? No? Okay. Can anybody tell what the ending of the nominative plural is?
S.
It's not just S. It's what?
ES.
It's actually ES. Okay, the genitive singular, as I said, is IS. And the genitive plural, what's the genitive plural, anyone? Does it look familiar or is it different? Anyone? Huh? Yeah, it's UM, which is weird. Okay, so this is kind of worth noting. On some nouns, because like there's like a whole group of third declension nouns that have this OR at the end of the stem, like amoris or temporis or corpus corporis, body. They'll look kind of like they have the ORUM genitive plural ending of good old second declension, but it's not actually. That's not the ending. It's like the stem is amor, and then it gets a UM. So that's why like I don't like the UM ending. It's actually like totally horrible. Right? Like UM shows up in nominative singular for neuter. It shows up in accusative singular for masculine and neuter. And now it's showing up in third declension genitive. It's horrible. So this is the new AE, right? Like we didn't like AE because it shows up in too many places. Now UM is showing up in way too many places. And we already would sometimes get the genitive plural second declension mixed up with that because it's ORUM. So yeah, we hate UM. If you want to put a star by it and just like know that you're gonna hate this guy, you can do that. What's that, Macy?
I was just wondering what the star was.
Say it again.
I was wondering what the star was in that.
Oh yeah, I'm just putting it there because like I don't like this one. I like most of the other ones. The dative singular is long I. This is weird to me because we were kind of used to long I being where anyone. Y'all can talk out loud. Y'all are so quiet today. It's frightening. Yeah, the nominative plural, not dative, nominative plural and genitive singular for second declension. That's where we were used to long I. We saw it here and here, just like belly on the translation quiz. It could have been nominative plural, it was actually genitive singular. Now, like, if it shows up on the end of a third declension noun, it's dative actually. So this kind of comes down to like a vocab thing. You need to know your nouns so well that you know what declension they belong to. You can't get like a third declension noun mixed up and think that a second declension, or else you're going to be totally thrown off. And that's why we use noun charts and stuff. Like, you guys don't need to know this until like, I don't know, November or something. So you'll have time to get used to these. The dative and ablative plural are, instead of long is, like in first and second declension, it's ibis. So this is a weird ending. This is like the new version of is. You don't need to write this, but is, right? A lot of people still, I think this is a T. It's an I with a macron. Why we pronounce it like is, not is. And it's like ibis is the new third declension version of that. I like the ibis ending. I think it looks kind of cool. Sounds weird when you pronounce words like with this, like hominibus. Don't get this old dative and ablative plural ending mixed up with genitive singular, right? Genitive singular third declension ends in is. That macron is important, or the lack of the macron is important. You're not going to get this mixed up with first and second declension ablative and dative plural because it doesn't have a macron. So it's a different is ending than the old dative and ablative plural. The accusative singular is em. The accusative plural is long or es. And then the ablative singular is just e. So what vowels does this declension really like, everyone? Anyone? First was all about A. Second was like O, I, and U. Third is what?
EI.
Yeah, E and I. It's like a mix of E and I. And then like the weirdo UM genitive plural. But it's mostly E and I. So that's pretty cool. Note that the accusative plural is the same as the nominative plural. I'll flip it now. Wait. Oh, this is just me being like, remember first declension, here's first declension. I guess that's why I put that slide in there. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Note that the nominative plural is the same as the accusative plural. Does that remind anyone of anything that the accusative plural here is the same as the nominative plural? Have we seen that anywhere else? The what? Neuter? Is that what's in the second declension neuter range? Yeah, I'm like fully deaf today. That was weird. But yeah, this neuter nominative plural, nominative and accusative. With neuters, they're kind of weird because their subject forms are the same as the direct object form. We already saw that in the second declension with the neuters. Now it's happening again on the plural side, at least, of third declension. So that is interesting. You might think that's like annoying or something, that overlap, but I don't think it's like ever too hard to differentiate whether something is a subject or a direct object. It's usually pretty easy to tell. Ms. Fisher, if you leave any paper scraps on the floor around you, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad news. Carson's moving his desk again, people. He's letting that desk drift forward. It's not good. Let's compare the third declension endings with first and second. Notice how I make the long IS blue and red at the same time because it's the same for first and second. What are some similarities, some patterns we're seeing? Anyone? What are some patterns we're noticing and observing here? Macy?
Well, how do you remember some of the last?
Thinking about it? Ella, do you notice any patterns here that might be helpful for us? There's one really noticeable. Well, there's like a couple things. Kaylin?
Every singular ending for accusative ends in M, which is like uses the vowel as most common.
Yeah, for sure. So this continues to be why accusative is my favorite case, because we get some like wonderful consistency there. Just like Kaylin said, they all end in M, and then in front of the M, it's like the vowel that's most common. Second declension is kind of hard to tell what vowel is most common. It's like a toss up between U and O. And then I is like second place. But anyway, yeah, it's UM, because OM I think would be weird. That look like a Greek word, not a Latin word. And then we get EM now for third declension. But that's fun. Also, the plurals all end in S, and they have like a vowel that isn't I in front of that S. Whereas the dative and adverb plurals all have this I in them. It's just that ibis now is a little different, a little weird compared to east. It's like a longer version of east. Ibis. And then what about the ablatives? They're all vowels, right? It's kind of weird that it's just an E. It's not a long E. We will get a long E in the fifth declension. In the fifth declension. Where is that? Oh, here it is. Yeah. But anyway, for now it's actually just a normal E. It's like eh instead of like a. So the ablative singulars love just like single vowels. Aiden? Yeah. And then genitive plural all end in M for what that's worth, like 2, but differently than accusative. I don't know if that helps. Yeah, that's probably it. But there's like some more similarities. Do y'all maybe see what I mean when I say like getting a new declension actually kind of like starts to make the other ones kind of solidify in your mind a little bit? Okay. Just like second declension, we have neuter nouns in the third declension, just like second declension, and they're just ever so slightly different than the masculine and feminine. So that's something I probably didn't note, that third declension has all 3 genders. First declension is almost entirely just feminine, with the exception of Nauta, Poeta, and the other one, Agricola. Second declension is masculine and neuter, no feminine. Third declension, all 3 genders are possibilities. You don't really need to know the difference between a masculine and a feminine third declension. They're the same. These endings are for masculine and feminine third declension nouns. So like you don't need to differentiate that. But this chapter, we're going to get like 4 neuter third declension nouns. And those you do kind of need to know. So just fill these out real quick. The only way that third declension neuters are different than masculine and feminine ones is that the accusative singular just repeats the nominative singular. So it's like, it's going to be that question mark again, just like it is for nominative singular, meaning that it's like whatever the nominative singular was, it's just gonna repeat that. So tempest, temporis is one of our neuter third declension nouns. That along with corpus, body, Carmen, not Carmen. Oh yeah, Carmen, song. Carmen is our new word that means song or poem. And then there's a 4th one. What is it? It's a body. We'll see in a second. I'll look at the vocab in a second. And then the nominative and accusative plural end in A for whatever reason. That's the only way that neuter third declension nouns are different. That's it. So question mark here and here, A here and here. So third declension plural side for masculine and feminine is already kind of like second declension neuter, and that the nominative plural is the same as the accusative plural. But the neuter is like a lot like it. And what I mean by that, I mean the accusative is the same as the nominative on either side of the singular and the plural kind of split there. Any questions? Okay, great. Does anybody feel like they don't even know how to do school anymore after a 3-day weekend?
I never.
I'm like, what is school? What is all this? What's that? All right. So there's that. What's that? Okay. So yeah, that's the third declension, people. It says tempest here on y'all's paper, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. At first I like left it Temp4, but yeah. That's what it should say. Does it say tempest?
This is tempest.
It says what? Okay, yeah, it does. Yeah, at first I left it as tempore, and it shouldn't be tempore. Like the way neuters are different is that the stem, which is different than the nominative, will be the stem that we use for all of them. But with neuter ones, it'll actually just revert back to its weird, unique nominative. But the plurals will use the stem. Macy?
Are we allowed to put these on our chart?
Yes. So that's a good question. Macy just asked if we could add these endings to your noun and verb chart that you've been using. Totally. If that's what you want to use for homework, you should do that. But tomorrow, sounds like a good idea. We're gonna make a new noun and verb chart, so I'll pass out a template to everybody, and we'll fill it out with just their declension. Leave first and second off. Maybe we should do this before the first quiz, actually. And leave first and second off so that we can use it on future translation quizzes, because I expect you guys now to know the first and second. But if you want to keep using that chart for like homework and stuff, that is an excelente idea. Most importantly, I want to make a verb chart with you guys that has like sum and possum on it. Okay.
Hey, Mr. Catalanello. At the beginning of the year, I took my Latin notes from last year, and I made like a chart that had possum and sum esse and all the like third declension and stuff.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, you can do that now. Like if you want to, you could take like the chapter 6 summary we had from this last chapter, and you could add sum and possum and like featured and perfect forms, if you could squeeze them into the verb part of the noun and verb chart if you wanted to do that. That would be like a great idea in terms of doing your homework. But we'll do a version of that ourselves eventually, right, Miss Fisher? So check out the how we compare third declension neuter to second declension, right? This is all I was saying, is that second declension neuter, the endings are for nominative singular, it's the same as nominative plural. Same for nominative plural, or the same as accusative plural. And oh, look, they're the exact same between second and third declension on the plural side, right? For whatever reason, neuter likes to use a in the ending of its subject and direct object form on the plural side. I don't know why. All right, last little bit of grammar. Like this is all the grammar for this chapter. So there's actually less to worry about than last chapter. Last chapter was like, here's sum and future and imperfect. Here's possum and future and imperfect. And it was just like these two big weird sets of verbs. It was almost like 6 sets of verbs almost. More like 4, because we already knew the present form of sum esse. Maybe 5. Possum was new. But anyway, but that's just like the entire chapter right here. So that's it. It's like, here's third declension, have fun. Now, the last thing I want to say is that, this is where things start to get a little weird with adjectives. When we had first and second declension adjectives, their endings were almost always identical to that of the nouns they were modifying, which was really handy. Very easy to spot when you're translating. Like if you see discipulus bonus in a sentence, you're like, oh, bonus goes with the discipulus. Of course, they both have the U.S. ending. It means the good student or whatever. And so that won't happen with third declension, and that's what's weird, because all of our adjectives are still first and second declension. Eventually, like years from now, by that I mean months, like in the spring, we will get third declension adjectives. They exist. But right now, all of our adjectives are still just going to be first and second declension in terms of the endings they have. So they are not going to have identical endings to the third declension nouns they modify. What do I mean by that? That sounded like a bunch of boring nonsense. Well, like if you look at Rex bonus, Rex means king, and it is masculine. So if it has an adjective buddy, that adjective buddy is going to have a masculine ending, but it's going to be a masculine second declension ending. So it's not going to like end in X or something. It's going to be bonus. And so that's just like a slight increase of difficulty in terms of like looking at this. I mean, like those go together versus looking at these, where like those obviously go together. We're looking at these, you kind of have to run it through and be like, wait, okay, Rex is nominative, singular, masculine, so bonus is also masculine, singular, nominative. Is that what I said? Additives have the same case number and gender as a noun they're modifying. That used to mean that the ending was like identical looking, but now it might not mean that, right? Bona to scipula, very easy to tell. Those go together. The good student, who is a girl, versus pax, which means peace, is feminine, so it would also get bona, but they don't look like they go together. It's weird. Carmen is one of our neuter third declension nouns, so it's not going to get like an en ending on the end of the adjective. It's going to get like a um neuter nominative singular. And there's the vocabulary words. The issue with taking screenshots of a Microsoft Word document is to get all these red things. Who really knows how to get these red lines to go away?
You just
You say like ignore?
right click them, get it. Just ignore. If you want it permanent,
But surely, yeah.
permanent hit add dictionary.
Add dictionary.
So like,
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. But I don't want to do it to all of them. Can I do it to like? Can I do like the whole thing? Because it's like it doesn't know Latin, so it thinks I'm always like making. See, I can't do it to all. I would have to do it individually. That's pretty bad. But anyway, it looks crazy up here, but it looks better on your sheet because it doesn't print those. Uh-huh. Let me try that real quick.
Let's try that.
You said you did that yourself? Oh, cool. Wait, like how? Let's see. Setting. Where is setting? Because this is Mac, so it might be a little different if you've used PC. Oh, like down here?
the gear. The little gear.
It's the gear. It's a little circle thing.
Next to the
Oh yeah. Yeah, this thing. All my life, I was a PC guy until I started working here, and they gave us MacBooks. And they are better, but some parts of them are still mysterious to me.
so I think it might be language
Language region. That makes sense. But well, if you've done it, you know that Latin's an option. Because I would almost expect they wouldn't have a dead language. Preferred languages. Like add. Why does it think I know Maori?
I don't know.
Maybe that's what it thought I was typing in. Or like assumed. Yeah? Where Latin at? Search it up. Oh no, that search bars, that's on the other page. Well, maybe I should use that. Latin. What?
And then
Oh.
you're gonna have to add. Like,
Well, I hope this is a big old list. But like, it starts over. Where are the L's? Oh, never mind. Well, what? I think it's skipping around. Oh yeah, okay. It's like in semi-alphabetical. It's like dipping in and out of it. Here, Latina. Use Latin. Yes, I'm a Latin teacher. Oh, not primary. Maybe not primary. Well, that'd be cool. What would that even mean? Would all my menus be like in Latin? Because that'd actually be kind of tight.
Everything would be in Latin.
That's
Like
kind of
where
cool.
It says your screen sharing, it would be in
I kind of want to do that, but I don't know.
No one's gonna be
Right.
able to.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That would be like
Well, maybe if I like restart it or something. Yeah. Okay, we'll see. We'll find out maybe like tomorrow or something. Maybe I'll restart during my lunch break. All right, this is the boring but maybe less boring part where let's just like go through these real quick. Amor means love. That one should be easy. Don't get it mixed up with the verb. It won't have verb endings though. None of the third declension endings look too much like verb endings. I guess you could think that genitive singular is like a second person verb ending. So hopefully don't do that. Yeah. Carmen is song. There's no good charm apparently is a related word, so that helps. Kiwitas is citizenship. We get words like city and civic from it. Corpus is body. We already talked about this one. Corporation, Marine Corps. Homo hominis is human being. Labor is work. Some of these are really easy, right? We get a good on first declension one with litera. It means letter or literature. Most Morris is, this one's hard. I feel like kids never remember this one. It takes them like months. It means habit, custom, or manner. We get words, or they can also in the plural specifically mean moral. So even though there's no R in the nominative, right, because nominatives are weird in third declension, the R shows up after that, and then maybe that can help you think of morality, right? So like a virtue you have or something. Nomen is name. That's easy. Y'all known that forever. Evan. Devin. Pax is peace. Regina is good on first declension, means queen. The masculine version is rex, which is third declension, rex regis. So notice how weird this is. Like it starts with ending in an X in the nominative, and then a G shows up in the genitive, and that's the stem is actually reg, R-E-G. So the X would only show up in the nominative, which is too bad. There's a lot of Latin nouns that end in X, and they're all really good. What does nox mean, anyone? We get nocturnal, so it's nox noctis,
Night.
night. Lux means it's almost the opposite of night.
Day.
But what is the opposite of dark?
Right.
Light, lux, lucus. We get words like what do we get from it? I want to say illuminate, but that feels a little wrong. What else? Arcs means like citadel. Arcs. What else? Anyway, there's a lot of good ones. Huh? Axe?
Cat. P-A-X.
Axe. I don't know if axe means anything. That kind of does sound like it'd be a Latin word.
No, P-A-X.
Axe. Peace. Yeah, we actually get that word right. We get here. Tempest means time. That's one of our neuter ones. Y'all, let's put a star by the neuter ones real quick. That is tempest temporis. So tempest will be the nominative or the accusative form. That is Carmen Carminis. So Carmen will be the nominative or accusative form, whereas the plural nominative accusative will be Carmina, Carmina. Tempora, Tempora. What else? Corpus is one. And then what is the fourth? I can't think of it. Oh, nomen. Nomen is neuter. Kind of makes sense because like guys and girls have names. Terra is earth. That's good old first declension. Maybe put a little dash by the old first declension ones. Right? Regina, Terra, and Litera are just good old first declension. So we're not done with the first and second declension. We're still gonna get those. Uxor is wife. I feel like it never shows up. It'll show up one day, and maybe you'll remember its wife. Doesn't show up. Virgo is maiden. Virtus is virtue, which is kind of related to weird, even though it's feminine. It's kind of weird. Novus is new. Post is after. So we have a new preposition. Maybe you want to write this preposition. And this, just like propter, is a preposition, Miss Fisher, that takes an accusative object, not an ablative. So incine and de still take ablatives, but now propter and post take accusatives. And that's not going to be too hard. Usually it's like the noun right after propter and post is going to be accusative, and that'll be the object. So it'll be like after the war, post bella. After the war is post bella. After the destruction, post exidium, whatever it is. Let's see. Sub is, that's another preposition. We get two prepositions this chapter. That's great. Sub takes an ablative. So we finally have a fourth preposition. Laura and Caden, why is there nothing on your desk? Guys, why? And John, do you have some? Like, that's so weird. I can't role play as the kind of student who's like sitting there and they're like, okay, the teacher's like going over a thing he handed out, and now I'm gonna like put it away. I'm just gonna like put it in my book sack so I can like sit here and like stare. Like, why? I'm not mad. I'm just like confused. Like, I don't get why that would happen. It seems like it'd be like more interesting and less boring to have something on your desk. And if I was like really mean, you wouldn't like get in trouble. If I was mean, I'd be like, "What are you doing?" Which I am like that.
Well, that's a good question, actually.
I mean, it is. John, like, where did it go? Like, why would you put it away? A lot of people do that with their quizzes too. Like, I'll hand out quizzes and we'll check it, and the kid will have already like put it away like deep in their book sack because they're like ashamed of their grade or something. They're just like, no, let's just like check it. We need to check it. And we get two new verbs, guys. We get that verb to kill, neko nekare, and we get this new verb, audeo auderi. One thing about audeo auderi, you might want to take a little note here, is that it takes, just like possum and usually debeo, a complementary infinitive. Because it means to dare, and so it'll go with like other verbs, like dare to think. Audeo cogitare, I dare to think. Audeo terreo, I dare to scare. I don't know. I can't think of good examples, but it'll take an infinitive, so be ready for that. That's weird. We only have now 3 verbs that do that. Possum, audeo now, and then debeo is usually always taking one, like should plus the verb. All right. That's it for the day, guys. Who can pass out the homework? Because we do have homework this week, but it's going to be due on Thursday. When is it due?
Thursday.
Yeah, do it. Who wants to pass it out? Oh, thank you. And there's a blank page between each sheets because the printer hates me. So if you could just kind of gather those. All right, y'all can use the last couple minutes to start looking at the homework. What's due on? Oh, It's double-sided, guys. You're not gonna do all of it. You're gonna do 1 through 5 for Thursday. So tomorrow we might make a chart. We might spot trends. Thursday we'll check this. And then last thing, guys. Last thing. What do y'all think we're gonna do on Friday? Anyone? Anybody have a guess?
Quiz.
Yeah, a quiz. Yeah, we'll learn about emperors after the quiz. What kind of quiz do y'all think it would be? Yeah, it's the first week of a chapter. We're gonna take a Maddie, stop talking. We're gonna take a vocab quiz on Friday because it's the first week of a new chapter. So, wow, doesn't that sound so annoying when like multiple people are talking at once? It's horrible. Thank you. Yeah, I know that's annoying. Okay, so vocab quiz on Friday on these words. So y'all need to like get on this. Maybe spend 5 minutes or so of essay every day this week leading up to Friday, going over these. I don't think these are too hard, but like I could be wrong. I've been a little surprised on some of the vocab grades and averages this year. So don't ignore this. We'll drill them a good bit tomorrow and Wednesday. All right, now y'all can kind of talk. All right.
Only kinda.
Ella, I'll upload the homework by like lunch today. And yeah, I guess we'll see you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.